In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to write an offer using Transaction Desk. Now, this might be your first offer that you're looking to write, or maybe you're new to Transaction Desk and just want to see how to do it. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna log in into your Northstar MLS or whatever the platform MLS that you use. In this case, I use Northstar MLS, and you're gonna have to find the link that's for Transaction Desk. For us, it's called Minnesota Realtors Forms, or AKA Transaction Desk. So you'll click there, and then this is gonna bring you to the main kind of like dashboard or platform for Transaction Desk. So this is I'm a real estate broker, so this is my broker dashboard. If you're an agent, you'll have like an agent dashboard, and then you have here on your left, you have kind of like the home screen. So it's gonna show you like all your deals and the addresses and kind of information pertaining to all the deals that you do through Transaction Desk. here you're gonna have Here you're gonna have the signing, so documents that you've sent out for signatures. And one of the nice updates they did is here you can kind of see like, for example, this is one. This is an amendment that I sent out, and I signed it, and I'm still waiting for 3 other people to sign it, and it'll show you who they are. And then the other ones here, you can see these are documents that were sent, and they have all been signed. Except I guess this one wasn't signed. This was anyways cancellation, but and then here you have forms. So here you'll see like all the different forms. So like for residential real estate forms, I'm just gonna click here. So if you're looking for a specific form, you can search for them. So let's say I'm looking for a purchase agreement. I can just start typing it, and they'll start showing up. So purchase agreement, there's gonna be might be kind of a general term, but if I'm looking for the actual purchase agreement, it'll show up. Um, so purchase agreements, and then it'll tell you like this form was actually revised in August of 2022. Here in Minnesota, forms are usually updated. Not all of them, but several of them usually are updated in the month of August. So if I click here, it gives you some options, but basically you can click on these 3 dots to the right, and I can preview it or download it if I want to look at it. So anyways, here's where the forms are. This little box here is just some documents, like you can have folders. I honestly don't really use this, so I won't go into detail on that one. Here I have some like broker tools, so I won't go into detail. The calendar, never used that one before. Here are all your contacts. And this contacts are important because this is like where you're gonna put in for people when they have to sign a document, right? So you need to have the person's full name, you need to have their email, and then typically like, are they a buyer, are they a seller? Kind of have that information there. If we go down here, here's some partners. I don't use any of those. And then here's some settings. So the settings part is important. I like to use transaction templates. So for example, I have one that's for buyers, and you'll see a little bit later why this is important. So here I have a buyer one, so I'll click on it, and you can add a checklist, which I haven't used, but there's some benefits to it, but I won't get into detail. I think the most important part is the forms. So in every transaction, you're usually going to have the same forms for the most part. Now, if it's like a townhome or a condo, you might have additional forms. If it's a new construction property, there might be some additional forms. For the most part, anything that's like previously owned property is gonna be it's gonna be almost the same forms you're gonna use. So I kind of make a list of them, and I do a template so that when I go to start a transaction, this will populate, and you'll see that in a little bit. But and I also organize this in the order that I'm going to be sending out the forms to be signed. So for example, the first, I send usually 2 emails. So the first email is going to be the agency relationship and real estate transaction. Then I do the buyer representation contract, and then I do the disclosure statement, compensation. So I do these three. I send in one email for signatures, and then the second email will be the purchase agreement and anything attached to that. So then I'll send the earnest money receipt, purchase agreement, the arbitration closure, which you have to send. If there's any addendum or if something was added to the purchase agreement, then there's that counteroffer addendum. And then here's a couple more. Here's like if it's like a condominium or townhome, then you have some additional ones. And I won't go through all of them, but then I just put the most commonly used. So this template will be a time saver. So that's for the buyers, and then I have one for a listing. So when it's a listing, You go here to forms. Again, the agency disclosure, the seller's disclosure documents, seller's property disclosure, the listing, and then some other of the commonly used ones. So this will be a big time saver. So we just reviewed the kind of the back office part or the dashboard or the transaction side of things here, but or transaction desk. But when you're gonna write an offer, typically what you do is you can either search for the property, right? Or so like let me see here. Let me just pull. Let's use this one right here. This is a townhome or a condo here in Rochester. So what I would do is if I know like I show this property and they want to make an offer, I look for this Instanet transaction desk icon here. So I click there, and then that'll bring me to the transaction desk. So Instanet and transaction desk are kind of the same thing, just different names. So something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. So I click on that property that links me to transaction desk where we just were and reviewed, and now you'll see like it'll pull up the name will be like kind of the part of the address. But if you wanted to ask like Joe Smith, just so that you know who the buyer is or whatever, or you can put it here, Joe Smith, and then the address, however you want to do it. That might be easier to identify. So templates. So this is what I just showed you before. So for templates, this is a buyer. So we're gonna write an offer on it. So I will do this one, and then it pulls all the information up, and then so buyer. So yeah, buyer single family template. So it's gonna import data from the North Star listing data, right? So legal description and things like that, and then also it pulls up the MLS ID number, and then it's asking me like, how do I want to be added as, right? Because you remember when we looked at the contacts through transaction desk, I'm in those, like my information is there, so it's asking me like, do I want to be a buyer's agent, seller's agent, both, there. So usually it just stays like this, and there's this like wizard. So the wizard, as you'll see, what it'll do is it'll prompt you to go to a couple steps before it gets you started on the transaction. So you'll see that. Then I hit create, and it takes a little bit here. Usually it's pretty quick, but we'll just wait. Okay, so here we are in that wizard option that we saw earlier. Again, you have the name of the transaction. It's an open transaction, right? That's kind of the default. And then there's this other information that kind of populates from it. I think the most important is the legal description because that'll be on the purchase agreement, but I don't really do a whole lot. I don't change any of this information. So then I do next. Transaction dates. I don't usually touch anything here, but there's like the list date. That's fine. Now here's where like if I'm writing an offer and it's like the first offer that I'm writing for those particular clients, then here I will add, so create new transaction contact, add an existing contact. So let's say this is like the second offer you're doing for someone else that you already have on your contacts, then you can do add existing contact. You can add yourself, but as you can see, like I'm already being pulled up here as Joseph is live buyer's tenant. Or you can add contact from Google. I've never done this option. So let's create a new transaction contact. So let's say this could be a buyer, but there's obviously other offers you could do depending on the what you're doing. So buyer, let's say John Smith, John Smith, and then email John Smith at gmail.com. So I'm just making that up. That's all I need. If there's like a legal name, you can include it here. Sometimes I believe what I do here, like I've worked with some investors that have like an LLC or something and they want to use that instead of their name. So I will maybe add that here. I believe so, but I don't really mess with this legal name that much. Prefer signature, prefer initials. Usually I don't touch that much. And then it says add to address book. So I always have that checked because I want this contact to be on my address book for future deals. It's already there. I've had buyers that I helped them buy a house, like years in the past or years ago, and then when they're gonna sell the house, they're still in my contact, so it just saves you some time steps. And then I hit save. You see you have John Smith here. If you want to add another person, let's do no, a new one again. So in this case, so buyer and Sarah Smith, and then email. Let's just make it up. Sarah Smith.com or at gmail.com. All right, so I have the buyers, I have myself. There's the listing agent, which is fine. So now form. So like all these documents pulled up from, the template that I have. So from here, you can kind of start editing. So let's just do the agency relationship. This one, you really don't have anything to fill out. Let me out a bit. So here, they just have to sign this. That's it. So here, you don't have to really add anything because these documents are on transaction desk, right? They're I can't think of the term, but basically, when you send this for signatures and you add the contacts and the contacts like John Smith and Sarah Smith, those are the buyers. It'll recognize in these blocks that those buyers have to sign here, and you'll see that. But this one, you don't really have to do anything. But let's go to the buyer representation contract. So here, you can see like some information like auto populate. So buyer is John Smith, Sarah Smith. Here you put like the dates when the contract starts. So full disclosure, like this should not uh, be like legal advice or anything like that. Any questions that you have or anything like that, talk to your broker or an attorney. My goal is just to show you how transaction desks work and show you how to kind of start that process of writing an offer, right? So let's say like this person, I'm starting representation today, September 9th, and ending, I don't know, November 9th. So that you would put that there. The broker is Casa Real Estate. I will put the date, right? Then I go down here. So is there a retainer fee, right? Typically, I don't do retainer fees. Some agents do, so it's case by case. What's the compensation? So the compensation, typically will be whatever the agent is offering, listing agents. In this case, if you go here, it's 3%, right? So we went to North Star MLS. You scroll down, it's 3%. So I would just do 3% there. And again, you should review. So what I did when I first started as a realtor is I took every document that was obviously like part of the deal. And I would like, for example, line 11 to 14, I would read this paragraph and translate it in like one sentence, like what's the main point of it. Then I would take this one and do the same thing. And then any questions I had, I would ask my broker or other agents at my office, just because I really wanted to understand all the documents. Because really, that's how you have the power when you're negotiating. If you don't fill out something correctly, or you miss something, then you can lose the edge or make a big mistake and cost your buyer or seller money, and then you have to pay for it. So understanding contracts, I think, is very important. And you'll be surprised how many agents don't or make very silly mistakes. But anyways, I know you won't, right? That's why you're watching this video, so you can learn and be a pro at doing contracts. Although this is more of a representation agreement, right? So you would fill this out with, I don't know, however, whatever you want to put, 30 days. You can do up to 6 months. And then here you would put, um, well, this talks about whether or not the commission that you're charging or that you're gonna get from the seller or from the listing agent, if that commission that you get will reduce the obligation. So in this case, I would get 3%. I'm charging 3%, so it shall reduce any obligation. So my goal is always for buyers to not pay any commission. Obviously, if it's a for sale by owner, different story. But in this case, I would do shall. This person's probably, let's say they're buying it for residential, but there's other options. Again, you should review this, talk to your broker, ask questions. And then buyer directs broker to arrange for a qualified closing agent, or buyer shall arrange for a qualified closing agent or buyer's attorney to conduct the closing. So typically, I do buyer directs broker. Like I have a title company that I typically use, and I figure that out because buyers normally don't really care which title company is, and they don't want to do extra work. They're busy people, whatever. Usually I do 67, but I give them the option. And so again, I guess I'm not gonna go through all this paragraph, all this information, but these are the things that you would fill out. So buyer will agree to dual agency. In Minnesota, dual agency is legal. You could do it. And so most buyers are gonna be open to that. But again, you gotta still present this, and they're gonna have to sign that. And then you review everything else. If your brokerage charges a broker admin fee, then I would usually add it here. Or actually, you can also add it if we scroll up. Um, I guess I took the space. I don't see her. Well, it's fine. I guess here's a good spot. So I could say, buyer to pay a broker at fee of, I'll just say if you're gonna charge X amount, right? Um, at closing or whatever. I mean, this is an example. And again, talk to your broker, our attorney, and make sure that they can advise you better on all this language information. But this is how you would fill it out, right? Or at least get it started, and then make sure that you do save. You don't want to lose all this work. And then if we go save and exit, you'll see that this document here is updated. But again, we're still in that wizard option, right? So we're going through 5 steps. My recommendation is typically like don't fill things out here, because if something happens, if your computer loses internet or whatever, sometimes there's like little bugs or things that could happen. Um, it won't save the information. So usually what I like to do is I used to sometimes fill it here, but I realized that best thing to do is to just go to next, and then this would be like if there's any other document. So these documents here, the resale disclosure, being that it's a condo, there's going to be more documents and disclosures. These are documents that were uploaded by the listing agents, right? So if we go here, um, and if I click here, it's going to show me the documents, seller's disclosures. But sometimes if I click here, then it's going to reset my transaction desk. I won't click it. Oh, whatever. Let's just click it and see what happens. Okay. So here, these are the documents that the listing agent uploaded, and it didn't mess with this. So anyways, so these are the documents here. So I hit done, and now we're in the transaction dashboard. Let me zoom that up a bit. So here you have detail overview. You have documents. So these are the documents that were uploaded by the listing agent, or any documents. Like if I have an additional document, I can just upload it here and it'll show up here. And then here are the forms, or also documents that are part of transaction desk. If I go to forms here, I'll see the agency relationship. If I click on the buyer rep agreement, you'll see that this is what we already worked on. So I'm going to exit out. And then you have a disclosure of the compensation. So obviously in Minnesota, you have to provide this. So you put the date. And then in this case, the listing agent is paying 3%. And then we're charging admin fee of, um, well, X dollar amount, whatever that is. Or you don't have, I mean, it depends on what your broker requires or asks you to, charge. So, and then, this one will be done. So remember, save. Now let's go save and exit. Purchase agreement. Okay, so the purchase agreement is kind of like the big one here, right? The big contract that or document you have to sign. So first you put the date. The date of a purchase agreement is important because it identifies a purchase agreement, because you could have different purchase agreements that were done in different dates for some reason for the same property. So the date is very important. And then here it asks you for like earnest money. You put that here. So let's say you're doing $5,000 for earnest money. If you want the earnest money to go through trust funds, then you have to specify that here. You would put like, listing age or listing broker trust funds. If you're not sure what trust funds is, ask your broker and see if it's offered. But it's basically a way for you to do the earnest money digitally or electronically instead of having to write a check. Here's the address that gets pulled from the listing, the legal description here, and then the rest you'll fill out here. I think for the sake of time, I won't go through all the details. I just want to show you how you can do it. Um, through transaction desk, right? So you kind of fill all this information and go through this. And once you do, actually with a purchase agreement, as I'm filling things out, I like to do save. Because sometimes things happen, and then if it doesn't save and you're kind of in a rush, it could be very frustrating, especially if it's like late at night, you're writing an offer. So I like to, as I'm doing a couple pages, save. So then, I do that. So we did the purchase agreement. So remember again, these first 3 documents, usually I'll do like one email. So let's just, and then the second email will be everything else. So let's just do let's say I want to send the first three documents for signature. I click on them here. You see this little basket. You click on them, and then you have a couple options here. But I'm gonna click the pen because we're gonna send this for signatures, and that's called authentic sign. I think that's part of transaction desk. It's a little confusing sometimes because you have like transaction desk gets called Instanet. This thing is called like lone wolf, like this thing, and then this is authentic sign. So there's all these different terms that can be confusing, but eventually once you do this a couple times, you'll see how easy it is. So first thing here, so signers. So who are the signers? So you can add yourself, new, from contact. In this case, I'm gonna do it from transaction because we already added them, right? So I'm gonna add myself and the two buyers, and you do select. Okay, so you see as I selected them, this auto-populated. Not everything is gonna auto-populate, but most things will. So I'll show you. So this one populates, and then this one here, I had already filled this out, so nothing has to be auto-populated here. The initials do, right? And then here as well. For some reason, it didn't pick me. So what I have to do then, but we're at signers. We already picked the signers. Documents. Here's the list of documents. And I thought you can also move them around if you don't upload them the right way. You can move them around. And then there's tools. So here's where like I need to sign here and date here. So I would look for my name, and I would do sign here, and then I can move the date here, or I could have just left it there. It doesn't really matter, but kind of like to be more organized and just that way. And then I come down, and then the buyer's names are here. Mine didn't show up. I don't know why, but fine. It's okay. I'll just add that here. And then this one auto populates. These are the buyers. They have to sign this wire fraud thing. And then again, mine didn't either here, which is sort of frustrating, but whatever. Hopes you me show you better. So now that you have all the blocks for signatures and everything, it's always good to kind of like do a second review of everything before you send it out. So I'm like, okay, this first two documents, okay, signatures are there. And then this one here, I have the names, the contract timeline, commission, blah, blah, blah. Kind of like to review it one last time. And then what I would do, so I would go to next here at the top, and then finalize signing setup. You're almost done. To further customize your signing invitation, use the options below. So you can make this signing expire. Sometimes that's nice to use if you're on a deadline, but I don't really mess with this that much. Usually when I send them out, people will sign it. And you can also customize invites. So at first, if this is like your first time that you're using this system, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just understand how things work, and then later on you can do more customization and things like that. Um, but typically I just send it out without, just usually what I do is I would hit send. But sometimes you might want to say like, and I have a Word document with kind of the information that I'll send. So I'll say, hey, I'm sending you one of, so I'll put here like email, email one of two. So they know like, hey, this is the first one, there's another one. And then I'll say like, agency relationship. So that's one document. Buyer rep agreements. That's the other one. And I have all this typed out so I don't have to do it all the time. And then what I'll do is I'll explain like, this is Minnesota required document that you have to, review and sign. Buyer rep is a contract between you and I so that I can represent you, da da da. And then, so you can copy that here. To the subject line, one of two, and then you can save the you save it. And then I'm not gonna hit send because someone has this email and I don't want them to get this, but you would just hit send, and then the email will be sent. And then well, but I guess I kind of want to show you. So okay, let's do something real quick. So another thing that you can do here, so which is this is an update or upgrade or whatever. So you can go here, and then where the email is, I'm gonna do one of my other emails. So I'm gonna do that one because I want to show you how it comes out. And then here you can say update transaction contact. So sometimes it happens where you're working with a buyer and they give you an email, but maybe like let's say husband and wife, or whatever, and then they might say, hey, can you just send it all to one email and we'll review or whatever. So sometimes you have to update it. So you do here, it'll update on this John Smith contact, not just like the transaction. So I'm gonna save that, and then I'm going to, for Sarah Smith here, I'm gonna do the same thing, update that and save it. Okay, so now they're all gonna go to my email, one of my emails, and then the other one. So let's just do next again, and let's send it. Okay. So now this is like the transaction kind of dash, or the dashboard for this transaction. So you can see here's a signing, and there's 3 participants. No one has signed. So now I'm gonna pull up my email, and it says here that email 1 of 2 signing invitation. So hello Joe Slide, blah blah blah. So start signing. So here's a little acknowledgement thing. So I'm in this case I'm the realtor, right? So I don't have to sign this agency disclosure, but I do have to sign the buyer rep agreement. Well, I have to sign this part, and then this part here in the bottom, and this other one here. So I signed that. You're almost done. Complete signing. Okay, cool. So I signed. Now I'm gonna go pretending that I'm like the sellers. So, or that, sorry, pretending that I'm the buyers. So well, I got 2 emails because both of them for Joe Smith and uh John Smith, Sarah Smith. So okay, this is Sarah Smith, one email, and then one for John. Okay, so I'm gonna just sign it real quick. So I'm signing here for Sarah. So it's gonna ask Sarah like, hey, what do you want your signature to be like? So there's like different options they can pick from. They can also draw it, but they can upload it. But I've never seen someone do that. So let's just go with this one. So they'll set their signature, and then they'll kind of accept, sign, or accept here, sign there, sign here, right? So they'll just go through the motions and sign things. Then let me do um, John Smith here. So sign. So now John has to set his own signature. Let's just use that one. And then here's an initial. So accepted. Accept this. Sign here. Sign here. Sign here. Now complete. So if we go back to, so if we go back here, so it shows everyone signed and that this is complete. So if you want to like download this, you can go and okay, so this is not where you download, but let's say that you sent it, and it happens more often than I want it to happen, but sometimes they'll say like, hey, like we didn't get it, even though they got it or they can't find it. So you can do resend invitations, and I'll just click it, and basically, well, I need not sent. I think it's too late now, but basically if you click this, it'll send another email again for them to sign, kind of like, like this one here. So that's kind of a nice thing to know. You don't have to like redo the whole thing. But let's go to dashboard. So this is the dashboard for this transaction, Joe Smith. And you'll see here on the document. So these are the forms, but once you sign forms, they'll start showing up in documents. So if you go here, let's just click here so you get better view. Um, so here it shows you. Let's see here. So I'm just trying to find. So let's go. If you go to signings, this one. Okay, I see. Okay, so if you go to the dashboard of this transaction, if you want to see like the document that was signed, you would go to signings and then click on it, and then it says view signed PDF. So we click here, it'll open a new window, and then you'll see that everything. You'll see what was signed, and kind of what it looks like. And then here on the top left is our authentic sign ID that has the information of like who signed, when, what time, all that. So just kind of good to know what that is there. Stamp, right? Um, and then also you'll get an email. So as the agent, so you'll see like he says, signing has been successful, and so this one will have like all the separate documents that were signed, or if you want them all in one spot, then you click there, and then this is what we were just looking at earlier. This has all the documents, and then the buyers in this case would also get an email with all of those. But besides that, besides this email with the full signature of everything, then you have the separate ones that says John Smith signed. Sarah Smith signed, and then another one. So it can be a little redundant sometimes because you're getting all these updates, but I don't mind them. Basically, I just end up taking all this and deleting it. And then once I have this document signed and I open it up, right, I'll take this and I'll save it like on the Google Drive or wherever your broker tells you you should save it. That's pretty much it. So just to review, we went through, how to go from identifying the property that you're gonna write an offer. You click here on this Minnesota Realtors form Instanet. This will bring you down. This will bring you up to your dashboard, your um, dashboard, and then you'll update some information on the deal if it's a buyer, seller, that kind of thing, and then it'll show you like the template um, of all the forms and things you have to do, and then you kind of go from there. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know what questions you have, or if you have other questions, obviously connect with your broker. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what questions you have. Thanks for watching.